Thank you for waiting so patiently. It's nice to see so many of you out. I know there's a World Cup on, but trust me, this is way more exciting, I'm sure. We wanted to do a lot of these sort of events after what we've done in summer. Appreciate it. Weather's not the best, but at the same time, I hope it's going to be a great experience. Obviously, more informal than our usual Meet the Manager events, and we're also going to have it recorded kindly by the 9 Years team, and we've got up on our YouTube channel afterwards. So, what's your language? I know you know what it is, but yeah. Obviously, we've got our manager Johnnie Jackson, so please give him a round of applause. We've also got AFCW in the house. And Terence Wimbledon, who is that small maybe? He's not wearing it. Yeah, he's just there in the back. Hi Terence. So I'm not going to talk for too long because this is about you guys, the fans. Obviously you've all got your questions that you want to ask. First of all, I suppose Johnny, great run of form that we're on. The last month's been superb, just going to walk around. Just a few words on how it's been for you and how you find the last few weeks.
But yeah, obviously, really everyone enjoys winning, don't they? So really, obviously proud of the upturn form, really enjoy it. But you know, even in those difficult moments, I've loved every set that I've been involved with the football club. So I think that's important to know. You know, I was supported in those moments. Knew that there was going to be ups and downs, and I've always had faith in myself, you know, my staff, my team, and my players that we could come through it. Obviously, we're showing that in a minute. So whilst you're winning as well, good runs of form, you know, you really have to try and enjoy it.
And I suppose it feels like a really long time since the last time we did this. Obviously, in the summer, all our thoughts on, and now we're here halfway through the season. How do you sort of break the season so far as a whole?
Work in progress. Obviously, it feels like there's been a lot gone on since then. Decent enough start the first few games, and then obviously a really rocky patch. But obviously, we've come through that. Sort of 14, 1 and 14 in the division now. We've managed to sort of climb away from where we was, and we're looking up at ourselves into the top half and in a decent position. So I'd say okay, work in progress. But what I will say is that everything I feel on and off the pitch is moving in the right direction for the football club. So I think we could be happy with where we're at, but also, you know, you're never going to be satisfied. You're always going to want more and keep pushing to see, you know, where we can take it.
Absolutely. And then Danny, obviously, still very much new man on the team, but you've had shed loads of meetings, you've met a lot of fans already. How have you found your time there so far?
Echo just what Johnny just said there. Enjoyed every moment. I haven't obviously had any downs yet. It's only been sort of 5 weeks in, but I want to pay testament to the two people to the right of me. And this is not me just blowing smoke because they're getting it. The way that Johnny's turned their form around where that as we said, then literally from mid-October, November time, an absolute fortune. You put smiles back on faces, there's some down faces that are now looking upwards rather than looking downwards. So massive credit to you, Terry, and everyone that don't know, I recognise the morale that you had in the dressing room when I turned up for games, before we lost to Sutton, lost to you, etc. You still have that morale in that dressing room, and you now got that in abundance. We've got Stephen Salzman coming. And Mick, alongside all of the team members, just been so welcoming, alongside fans, alongside volunteers. It's just been an absolute pleasure to have all of that knowledge on spent over the last few weeks, sharing with them, being here to listen to, and I just want to thank you publicly for the support you've given. Ultimately, I'm here to drive operational revenue. There'll be nothing more pleasurable than being able to say to the board that we're reducing our debt, passing more money to Johnny to spend as wisely as he has done over the last 6 months, and into future transfer windows where we can further enhance our squad, boost our community involvement even further, and just be prosperous as a club as we can be. We've been up there and we can, I think, achieve some real good heights under the leadership of these two guys to the right thing. So I'm not going to really say much tonight because I think more important that we hear from Johnny. It's great to get to do this at near half-time stage of the season. So I'm like that.
I just want to ask you, Danny, and also you, Johnny, about the sleep out you done for the D-Lag the other night. How did you find it, and what did you make of the whole experience? You know, everyone coming together for all over the community.
It was good. Trying to work out who was allowed to score between me, Johnny, and Terry. But I think, well, none of us really had much sleep, apparently. But there definitely was some loud scorers, definitely. But no, all joking apart, absolutely brilliant. Was it over 60,000 raised, which is staggering. We're shivering in the middle of the night, but it was just a reminder of why we're doing it. So some people have to do that through nothing other than a choice. We had a few beers before, which made the evening a bit more passable, but to raise the money for that, it was absolutely fantastic. And lots of fans that took part. And it's great to sort of double that number next time we do it. Johnny, you were a bit more prepared than I was in terms of, we say, sleep materials.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I bent the rules a little bit. I had a little fishing bed with me, which definitely made the experience a little bit more tolerable. Although I can honestly say it wasn't the greatest night's sleep I had, and certainly didn't get off as early as Danny. He was one of the first back down the hatches, and you had about 8 hours skipping, and it was on the But myself and Terry, we only had about 2.5. So. But all part of the fun, really good night, obviously, for great calls, raising a lot of money, and fantastic part.
Great stuff. And then Mick, obviously, you helped bring these two gentlemen in. How has it been for you to see them develop in their role so far?
Yeah, I mean, it's an absolute privilege for me to be doing what I'm doing at this football club, because I've been following Wimbledon since I was 12.
What is this one about the thing now?
It's probably the same as well. Around the other day, and Johnny was doing some set pieces, and the ball was over the bar, and I started chasing it, and I thought, wow, I can't come full circle. It's great. I mean, playing off right now. Exactly. Next year, I've got the no, it's absolutely great. We spent a long time in the summer looking for the kind of manager that we wanted. And we found Johnny, and we were all really, really happy and delighted to get him here. And it's been an absolute pleasure. Likewise, we spent quite a lot of time on the managing director search. I frequently get you guys saying, when are they coming, when are they coming? And I'm absolutely delighted that Andy is here. It's funny sitting here, I almost don't have to say anything because they know exactly what their job is and what we're trying to achieve as a club. And I just think that the way that Johnny has picked up the vibe of a completely new club. So he's our first non-Wimbledon manager for 10 years. Has got fantastic antennae in terms of what we as a club want and what we as a supporter base want. And I think we've seen that come through in lots of different ways. Likewise, Danny, he came here to watch a few times. He was here for some of the games that weren't so glorious, as he said. And I was a little bit worried he might change his mind about taking the short to them. But no, it's great, and we obviously announced we employed the head of football operations, but we are in January the 9th. So, yeah, I mean, you haven't really asked me about my role, but I'll say my role was to kind of come in and bring some stability and try and find the best way for us to move forward. And I'm really happy that with the managing director, a really good manager, a fantastic assistant manager, and a head of football operations coming in, if they can work as part of what we all have together. So, we've driven this club for 22 years together. We've got to continue to do that, while we need really good professional people at the heart of what we're doing. That's a fairly lengthy answer, but that's how it feels.
Very good summarisation of the right, time for talking from me is over. Who would like to start us off with our first question for the gaffer? Gentleman just there, sir. And if you could please say your name as well before you ask questions, that'd be great.
Hi, my name's Roy. Question for JJ. The change in our fortunes on the pitch this season seemed to roughly correspond with a change of tactics away from playing out from the back to a more direct game. I just wondered what it was that persuaded you and your team to actually change those tactics at that time.
Various different reasons, to be honest. I had an idea of the way that I wanted the team to play. Obviously, a clear idea that we tried to implement in the pre-season. We had certain amount of success with it in the early part of games, but become more difficult through certain spells, and I felt like some of the stuff that we were doing, I always want to play effective football. It's never for the sake of it. It's what's going to help us win, what's going to help us create chances. And in the early few games, that was being effective. It became apparent in that spell that it wasn't being so effective, and perhaps some of the stuff that we was asking, wasn't being implemented by the players, and I felt like the more games we lost, the more pressure was on them. So I was looking for ways of relieving the pressure off the boys and to try and sort of simplify the game a little bit. And, there was certainly a bit of feeling, I think, in the football club that we needed to go a different way with it. Obviously, as a manager and a coach, you're looking at it when you're not winning games, you're always looking at how you can affect it, how you can change it. So it was a bit of a melting pot of that. We needed to start winning games, and we needed to start picking up points pretty quickly. I was quite aware of that. And I just felt that we needed to sort of change tact a little bit. And obviously we worked on it on the training ground tirelessly. We have done since. It's proven effective, and probably proving with the group of players that we've got at the minute, the most effective way of playing. So yeah, I guess that's probably, it wasn't any one thing, but if you're not winning games, you keep doing the same thing over and over, obviously you're going to keep getting the same result. So I was thankfully aware enough of that, and wasn't too rigid and stuck to any one way of doing it, because I think as a coach you have to be really flexible. So that's the other way to sort of change that a little bit.
Who's next? Come on, don't be shy.
Yeah? Go.
Yeah.
I'm going to get the question a little bit also because I want to say just a question. I've caught 12 foot wide, 6 foot high flag for the women's team, which wants to let everyone know. Hopefully that will be up by early January, and that shows us for people to be inspired to those games. And yeah, they've been doing really well. They've had 9-0, 5-0, 5-1 wins. They've won 7-1 3 times during this season, the last season. And just question for Johnny. In our last 7 league games, our form has been win-win, draw, win-win, draw, win. If we would have started the season like this at this rate by now, we would be top of the league with 4 or 5 wins. It's fair to have been top of the league. We spent 25 days of the season in 17th place due to a slow start. We've had 3 opportunities to get to Wimbledon, something we haven't done in 34 years, but we're only left in 1 league trophy after losing 2-0 with no corners, 2 shots, and only 1 on target against Chesterfield in the FA Cup. A team 2 divisions below us last season. As Danny said in Saturday's Matchday programme, we need success on the pitch to enable success off it too. So, what is sort of inconsistency in the performance of the team? Will it cost us in the race for promotion in spring, or are you confident the lads can compensate for their slow start? Thanks.
What we can't do is look back at what's gone before, and I said that to the boys. I mean, we debrief every game. We look back at what we've done well, what we can improve on, and then we move on. So even in victory, Wimbledon, we look back at the Grimsby game this morning, we spoke about what we've done well, we spoke about what we can do better. How can we improve? Because, like I say, we haven't done everything yet. We're at level 15. It's an improvement, but we still want to be better, we want to be more consistent. And then we put it to bed and we move on. So I think that's important that you do that, when you're losing and when you win. So we can't do anything about the start of the season. Nothing we can do about it. There's no point thinking, what if, we've done this. There's good teams in this league that you're going to come up short against. And I'm sure in some of their games, even in some of the games that we've lost, which spoke about it, that I still felt even in that period we didn't quite get what we deserved in some of those games. I look at Barrow game here that we lost, and you look back at it now and you think the chances that we had, how did you lose? And that was the case with a few games. So I still didn't feel we was getting perhaps the run of the green in those things, but we managed to turn that around. We were in decent form, so I'm very much still on the positive side of things. Yes, we're out here. You said 3 chances against Wimbledon, and I appreciate the optimism in that, but I don't think anyone probably thought we was going to win the FA Cup. That's not to say that wasn't a chance to progress, absolutely, but probably not a chance against Wimbledon, maybe not the League Cup. But I'd say the real live chance that we have got to get to Wimbledon is still alive. Very much taking that Papa John's trophy very seriously. We came coming out next week against Wimbledon. We want to win to get one step closer. Going out the cup was disappointing. And you said Chesterfield, I think it was 2 divisions below us last season. One now. Chesterfield are a really good side. So make excuses, but they're a really, really big hitter in that league. And probably financially, probably not in a dissimilar position to us. So I always knew that was going to be a difficult game. We took it seriously. Unfortunately, we came out on the wrong side of that one. We was all disappointed with that, but what we did go and do was put it right the following week. A really, really strong performance out here against Grimsby in the league, which is our bread and butter. But we want to do really well. And so at the moment, we're doing okay. We're going in the right direction. We're optimistic that we can continue doing that. There'll be months in the row, we'll lose games. Of course, there's good teams that we're going to come up against. But we're in a good place moving forward, and hopefully we can see where it goes. I hope that answers some of that. Yeah, something was good one,
Who's next up? Gentleman over there.
Hi, I'm Simon. Johnny, just want to say congratulations for being nominated for Manager of the Month. In the bag, but don't get too complacent. How worried are you in 4 years' time that Sal is going to be out of our team and playing for Morocco, considering their result today?
In 4 years' time, I'm not right at all. I wish the kid all the best and hope that he is. He's saw what Morocco done earlier, and we was having a little joke in the week about that Moroccan season. The way that they play, the way that they perform, very similar to how you see the lad out here, that wholehearted, absolute commitment to everything that they do on the ball pitch. And that's one of the things that me and Terry know about Ayew. Despite his size and his stature, he's got heart on the line, and I think they called the Alex line, is that right? I just made that up.
No, that's all right. I think he'd fight anyone.
He would, yeah. Well, yeah, he was actually looking back on the child that sent it off last year, the Ryan Innes sent it off. Ryan Innes, who's 6'10". That's one of the worst tackles you've ever seen on George Marsh. Gets his red card, and who's first up, pushing him in the chest, beside him. He's looking up at him like that. And it is looking down at him like that, and I will give him just as good as he got. So, yeah, I mean, loving working with him. He's a unique character, but he's obviously a really, really talented footballer as well.
Yeah, no, just congratulations on everything.
Thank you.
Over the last sort of 4, 5, 6 weeks, it's been amazing, it really has, and you know, testament to yourself. And yeah, I look forward to sharing the champagne with you. Thank you.
Next. Anyone just let us know?
Martin, just a quick question. Have you got any budget for January? Or you know, interest you think good enough? Or you look at the cost of it, next look at you, you see the cost of it.
Question for Johnny or question for me?
Well, let's go with you, Mick, first, and then Johnny can tell you what he's looking for.
I'll give you the budget.
It won't be the first time Johnny would have told me what no, I don't sound like the boring accountant guy sitting in the middle, but you know, you're all aware of the fact that we are protecting the account of debts, and we don't want to go any more into debt, but we want to move up as quickly and as effectively as we can. So I think there are two things going on at the moment. We have a new financial controller, Laurie, and he is going through all the numbers. We think actually from a budget point of view we're doing okay against the budget we set ourselves at the start of the year. So I think there will be some opportunity. The other thing that we're doing is, so Jamie Johnson is working with Johnny and Terry around different recruitment scenarios for different situations and different positions. And I think all of us are just seeing really how the next game goes, how the next game goes, how the next game goes. And there are 2 more of those before January 2nd.
Yeah.
And by the time we get to January 2nd, we'll have seen how those 5 games have gone. They will be looking at some of the positions just to kind of confirm their gut or their knowledge. And then we'll have a look at the numbers and just see what's appropriate. And that is it's always easiest to tell the truth. That's kind of where we are. So we'll see. Johnny, do you want to tell them what you want in January?
You can have Zach.
That'll be a different contact. Obviously, as a manager, you know, you're always going to wishful thinking, you're going to have an ideal scenario, you're going to, it's my job to obviously push me, it's his job to push me off, but also I'm a realist as well, and I understand the situation that we're in. The club's in a really good position as far as what we've done as a football club and where we want to go, but you know, with that comes a lot of reality. So I'm aware of that, but at the same time we have ambitions as well. So in the recruitment world, you're always looking at what's available, what the market looks like. Me and Jamie and Terry work really closely and constantly looking at players, games and stuff like that. So you sort of prepare for every eventuality really. And we know what sort of pool that we shop in. We don't put players that are obviously going to be unrealistic, but if there's business to be done that can improve us and is sensible and is within our remit, then we'll always have those conversations. It's really open to them, but obviously we go into those with a realistic outlook.
I'm a bit too far really. I'm sure we're very organised, should it happen. But firstly, how concerned are we will get rained in January rather than just something? We've all seen how well some of the players have played. I think everybody's probably sitting there thinking, when's the way South is going to come and we can't turn down. And Jack Curry's playing himself into that sort of frame as well, albeit he's not got a lot of games in his belt. And the second part is, do we think that getting somebody from the lower leagues ahead of football will possibly open up teams below us that we've not really plundered in the past? It always seems to be the other way around. Clubs above us come and take our players or look at our players. Do we think it would be a better place to start tearing apart clubs above us now and adding in players that have got experience that we're looking for, but to give them that next level of football?
I'll answer the first part, if you like, around sort of interest that might come in from our players. I think it's absolutely realistic, and we have to have our eyes open that someone like Owen is going to attract interest. The nature of what he's doing, the nature of the way he plays, he's always going to catch the eyes of younger players like Jack. But I think you're right to highlight that, in Jack's case, is his first experience in league football. Still a young lad, plays probably less than 20 games so far in senior football. So sort of less concerned about that. Like the RU one, there's almost certainly going to be interest for him. That will be the interest that's going to sound like as a football club. Let's wait and see. What I would say about him is that I think he's playing really well. He's really enjoying his football. Like Terry said earlier, I think we even called him smiling a couple of times. Which is real rarity.
It's a big company.
Maybe he's later on. But he's in a good place. He's enjoying his football, so he'll be aware of that. If he continues to excel with us, his value's only going to go through the roof, isn't it? But he's the sort of player that without wanting to jinx it, he's robust. He doesn't seem to pick up any injuries. He wants to play every single game, and he loves his football. So if he was to be somewhere else, would he be afforded that opportunity every week? Who knows? And then how that affects his value. So for me, he's in the best place right now for him. For us as a football club, if he continues to do what he does, his value today compared to what his value might be come the end of the season could look wholly different. So we love having him. We don't, as a manager, while we don't want to lose him, he's a big part of what we're doing. And all I do know is that he's enjoying it. So let's hope that as long as he's circling around for him, we can continue on, and then obviously come to some of that becomes a good conversation.
There was a part 2 there about the head of football and things kind of stuff.
Yeah, so I really like the idea of us. I like the idea of us loaning great players that can kind of bring something we don't have in the squad. As a kind of Wimbledon fan of many years, I'm really excited about the idea of us unearthing talent from below and developing talent and then really recruiting the benefits of that talent development. So we didn't recruit a head of football operations because he was currently in the National League. We recruited him for a number of other reasons. I think certainly his knowledge of that league is really, really good. And we lost a few players that were assets, I guess, players we owned in the summer. I was delighted we brought in Josh because he's one of ours, he's a player that we own. And it would be really good to get the players that we own back up, if you like. But as I said earlier, we'll approach January in terms of recruitment with a whole bunch of different scenarios. I imagine it could be loaded using the players we own, or we could think we've got enough to do both, basically. We'll see. In terms of our players, I mean, it's always a risk in football, isn't it, when you're starting to do well. We've had a lot of scouts here watching our team. So undoubtedly we have a number of players who are attracting interest, but then we turn down lots of offers for players in the summer. So we wouldn't necessarily accept an offer depending on any particular player.
Who's next? I was wondering about that.
Firstly, I want to say thanks off to both Danny and Johnny for doing the sleep out on Saturday, and especially Danny for doing the sleep out followed by being around the kids on Sunday for the June Christmas party. That's super impressive and just exactly what we need from an MD at this club, so really happy to be on here. Secondly, it was great, the kids absolutely loved the Christmas party, so it was so great to have the players there engaged. I really want to pass on, as I already said to personally, Jack Curry is an absolute dream. He's so good. He's so engaged in the whole thing. He has had on there some players that maybe weren't so engaged, but he was, and he had a lot of feedback from other like parents and kids that he's just great. So he's a real testament to our club. So from reflections from the parties that there's certainly some characters in the team, thanks God. Hell, being one of them. And I'm just thinking about the Grimsby game on Saturday and what happened there. How much, excuse my language, is how would you encourage? Is that something that you support? Is that part of your game plan? Or is it just something you just? That's my question.
You didn't even mention the piercing starts moves as well.
It's not something that I'm talking about. So everything that I do is about what we do when we've got the ball, what we do when we've got that ball, we look like tactics and stuff like that. I'm not into histrionics and dark arts and stuff like that. So I don't actively encourage it. But what I would say is that I felt like we needed, as a squad, well, I spoke about it on Saturday, you guys in the summer, that we needed more experience, we needed a bit more know-how, we needed, in those tougher moments in games, to have the sort of players that did there and trying to know how to get over the line. So what I would say is I know exactly what I was getting when I signed Harry Bell. And obviously I was more than happy to sign him. You know, I've witnessed his antics, if you like, from afar for a number of years. Harry Bell's a very good footballer, he brings a lot to our team. He also brings his Harry Pelvis, which is unique and can be really effective in winding opposition up sometimes. And Pelly's not going to change. You know, Pelly is what he is, and that's the way he plays football. He plays football on the edge, and sometimes it goes over the edge, sometimes it's on the brink of the edge. But it is effective. Saturday was probably over the top, but the week before at Tranmere, he got punched around the back of the head for his troubles, which he didn't really deserve that strong. So, which obviously, it was a big advantage to us, the opposition going out to 10 minutes. Let's not overlook what he brings to us as a player. I think he's been excellent. I think he's been one of the success stories of our recruitment and so on. I have chats with him about bringing in some of the other Harry Pelvis, but he is what he is, and he's a solid in his arse. So we'll leave it there.
Love that answer. Right, anyone else?
I'll have a go.
Go for it.
I'm Fatty, got handles for on. Johnny, a big part of your role is obviously to coach and mentor, not only the playing staff, but your wider team. So I just wondered, what advice would you have for anyone trying a charming job?
I'll say give it a swerve. I appreciate the question, but I'm not here to talk about that. It's club I'm fond of, not so fond of what's going on there, to be honest. Anyone that, what I would say on reflection of my time as manager there, my time as manager here, and this is not to burst smoke, what you want as a manager is to be allowed the room to breathe and get on with managing and coaching, which is exactly what I've been afforded here. As a testament to him and my staff and everyone around me. I've really been given that support. And I'm also in those tougher moments when we wasn't picking up results, that Mick was a big support. I recognised probably the pressure that I was under and was feeling, and just helped me be calm. Reiterate his trust in me and give me the room to do my job and come through the other side, whereas perhaps that wasn't the case there. So any manager going there
Yeah, I mean, there is a serious point behind that question, and it's around sort of bad owners coming into football clubs all across the pyramid. So, you know, your answer about our structure is quite enlightening.
Yeah, I mean, you hear stories about bad owners and we've got a different ownership model here, but for me, it's all I've had, how I've been allowed to do my job and get on with what is important to us is the work that we do on the training pitch, how we create what we feel is a real elite working environment. And honestly, I'm going to try and get the game that I've been allowed to just get on with that. That's all you can really ask. And obviously, it's then over to you to deliver, Joe's and Ron's, and at the moment that's happening. So, yeah, I mean, that's why on the very first question I said I'd love them to be here at the football club because I've had that support network.
Perfect.
Well, they have lost certainly been our games. What I'll say to that.
Here, here.
Next. Gentlemen at the back.
Thanks to the gentleman, first time to come off. Something for Danny, really. We've got an amazing club, we've got a team that's doing really well at the moment, we've got a fantastic stadium, which is a community asset as well. I just want to know what ideas you've got for the future to continue to raise revenue for the club overall, with what we've got available to us and what enhancements you might think we may need. I know we've seen all the World Cup stuff going on, but there's so much opportunity there with what we have. Just be interested to know what your thoughts are.
He's more demanding than me. I'll give you to January to answer that question.
It's in the end of January or beginning.
It was the end of January, not the first. Yeah, good question. How have we got? So I'll try and get the answer really shortly. First off, the World Cup events we've done, down to a number of people, but specifically down to my left has done a huge job of that. If you haven't been to one, I think it was just about there was availability now for Saturday night, so you can try and make Swindon and not go above 7 miles an hour on the M4 coming back to come and watch that. I think we'll just about get the two in. But going back to the question, there is a lot of low-hanging fruit, but there's also some infrastructure bits that we need to get right in order to realise the potential of this stadium for Matchday as well as non-Matchday. Those facilities, namely on the second floor, need to be some enhancements, nothing that can't be fixed with time, energy and money. We've got to make sure we spend the money wisely in order to accumulate it. And then we've got to look at what we can do on the third floor. Those who haven't been up to the third floor will come to a video in the next couple of weeks. It's nothing more than a storage area and security. But there are plans afoot, and we're looking every day at options that we can monetise that on the third floor. So for me, it's about putting more butts on seats. You can see the attendance is rising with the performances that Johnny and the guys have had over recent weeks. It's about making sure that we provide a great experience, win, lose or draw, to encourage the next generations of fans to come back. So I've got at the moment, Nick's going to probably need about 4 days to read it, but I've got an 80-page strategy that I've already built over the last few years as I start to soak up information from every stakeholder, from every voluntary group, from every staff member, etc., to make sure that we've not only got the revenue streams, but we've got the profit streams to go with it, as well as the infrastructure here and as well as the training ground that gives the best opportunity for this club to develop, so to pay off its debts, to add to the playing budget and to make us all proud of every single day to be part of what is a fantastic community family club.
Anyone to those next, I believe?
About the players that we use on the party, I don't think you can underestimate how much that impacts on kids at that age being close to their heroes. Something that I feel that we've lost a little bit here when we've moved from Eastmeadow to here and then had COVID for a couple of years is the interaction between players and fans. And I just wonder if there's either to Johnny to say yes they can do it and then to Danny and Mick as to how we make that
We used to have a man of the match more than one player arrive, and they were just going to do the bar and chat to people. And I think that helps when things aren't going so great on the pitch. You've got an association with that player in real life rather than just video of them. So it's just a solution that we make that interaction a bit more.
I mean, it is something that we have been spoken about. You certainly want to look at this. I would say some players are more willing than others, and they obviously don't want to always put it on the same guys. And, you know, some players are really sort of within their shell and want to get down and match their luck. Receiving an award, it needs encouraging at the same time, and sort of, you don't want to look forward as well. So, but there are quite a lot about it. We are aware that it was happening, and it's not happening so much now. It's just making it work and, you know, making sure that players are happy with it. Obviously, we are aware that we do want more engagement with you guys, and it is a vital part of it's all about the interaction. So, I think you're right, the more we can build out that rapport between players and supporters, you know, we see them more as people rather than, you know, just people that are out on the pitch. So we are looking at it, we are looking at ways to make it work better.
I agree, Jane. So I think what we're trying to do is just try and find a constant improvement, just something every day that we do that makes what we're doing better. And this kind of really comes under the fan experience, and also comes under the culture of us as a club. So we've got people upstairs. Well done, Danny. It took Danny years for us to get our supporters upstairs in a nice warm room watching telly, which was a great start. I went up there, I bumped into William Pelly as I walked in, and it started to feel a little bit like the old days, I've got to say. So I think we'll continue to look at the whole fan experience area and look to see how we can make that work. I think we all recognise over the years we've had players that want to talk to fans, and we've had players that just love it, and we need to continue to respect that and kind of work within it. But I think there are ways we can do more.
Yeah, I think echo what's just been said there. I think we have to look at that from a matchday and a non-matchday point of view of how we can bring some life to personalities of boys. There are some personalities that we discussed tonight within that dressing room. I think the best example was something with Junior Dons is you've got this young female fan who did a drawing of Hayden Womble, and then when they actually saw Harry and saw Josh Davison, she literally couldn't go. It was the tightest hug I've ever seen anyone give, and it was just, you don't need to remind them. It's a timely reminder of the difference that can make. That probably estimate 8, maybe 7-year-old girl, well, she's probably always going to be a Wimbledon fan because her mum or dad regarding have coached that into her. But if she needed that prompt to support them rather than Chelsea or whatever, that was that moment. And I'm a genuine fan by birth, that's the point to boom. Very much Wimbledon in the heart now, but all joking apart, I became a genuine fan because of that engagement I had as a sort of 6-year-old with what was then a Gillingham idol. We've got to create that every single opportunity and look at not just the fans that are in this stadium, but the 6-year-old that lives on Hayden Road, the 6-year-old that lives in Wimbledon Village, wherever they are locally. We've got to attach ourselves and really be relevant, topical, and on trend, fun, engaging, all of that stuff. So not just that 6-year-old, but to the family of that. And that's our big challenge. All of us in this room, everyone listening online, that over the next 12 to 24 months, we've just got to continue to build on what we've got stories about. Let's just tell us the next generation after that, and there's a big spread of us.
Can I just quickly add to that? We always get tied up with like young kids, seeing the players and being excited by them. I know that conversation recently about kids rushing to the fence and poking the ball across the room. I know apparently we've addressed that already slightly. One gate was open being made. I know some of that is kind of just the normal piece of the way the stadiums like they are. But after one of the man of the match, or to my 17-year-old and my 27-year-old, I ran over to get a photo with Josh Davison. And it kind of struck me that, you know, I'm looking for an avenue for 40 years, but that's their Messi, that's their Ronaldo. And sometimes it's easy to think that our players aren't that special, they happen to just the Wimbledon players. But if you're a Wimbledon fan from cradle to grave, there is a point where they are your heroes, and just being near them and being able to get a photo with them or chat to them or say well done. I think that's the bit that we miss out on, and why people are sort of saying, can they just breeze through the bar? And at Kingsmeadow, even the players that weren't great at fan contact had no choice. So they had to walk past fans to get to their cars. So I'm also want to kind of, want to ambush fans, players that don't really want to talk to fans. But I think we can get a bit caught up with the whole concept that someone's doing this, we've lost 27 games, and the fans are going to give a load of shit to the players. We're going to be self-against that. Those people don't want to raise their mind by that point, the people like our race fans. And it is a marked difference, not only to those of us that have seen it differently, but there are fans that have never seen it, and that's something as you said that we need to fix. But I think it's also one of those, you 50 years old people to be really like
Anyone else?
I'm a fairly new supporter here. I've lived in Wimbledon for 44 years, but I've come back in the fold, obviously now we're back at Lane. A couple of points. The South Stand, at the very, very front, there's no barrier there. So the front row, students keep having a go. You're not allowed to stand up, blah, 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 keep telling us to sit down. Really annoying. I don't know if it's what you can do about that. It's so annoying. You're antagonising the home fans. So that's, I don't know if you're going to sort that out. Johnny, love what you do, brilliant. When we go to away games, and you see a lot of pissed up fans, on the trains, at the train stations. Do you enjoy all that, or is that just a bit annoying for you? And then there's a further part, just back to the stadium. What are the future plans for the stadium as well going forward? If we can own the Championship, Premier League, how easy is it to get like 20,000? What are the plans? I'm assuming they'll hopefully have some plans.
Trademark first.
This is throughout my playing, coaching, management career. I've had good and bad experiences on trains. You're up north, you've had a bad day, you've had a bad defeat. Some fans have had a few beers and they want to let you know how they feel, which is fine. I totally get that. Sometimes it's gone the other way. Actually, my experiences here at the football club, this football club, have been very positive. Very positive. Even trying to tell you can think of specific one where we've maybe been away and lost and come back and you're thinking, this is going to go. We haven't been subjected to anything untoward or anything that you can't handle. And actually, when we've had really good results, there's been some really positive and eye-opening experiences on the train. The train coming back from Belgium.
Can't remember.
We've had some fun with ourselves, but also with supporters coming back. So we love that engagement. Obviously, when I lost the game as a manager, I've got it up as much as anyone. Do you know what I mean? So obviously my moves down, and you might be less tolerant to certain things, but when you won, you sky out and you just want to get involved with it. So experiences here have been really positive, and in the main have been positive. But there's been a few moments that haven't been so nice in my career, but I think I guess you have to take it with love as well. We accept that, the job that we're doing.
So in terms of the stadium, I think as Andy very eloquently said a few minutes ago, the second floor, the third floor, we really need to figure out how to make what we've got work really well. Thanks to Mr. Eric Sanderson over there, who did an amazing amount of work whilst he was CEO. We've got planning permission, I think, which stretches to about 18,000, depending on which configuration we go with. So Eric will correct me if I get this wrong, but I think the south end and the east side, we have planning permission that can give us something very similar to the west end. something a bit smaller at Wimbledon. Obviously that's all a little bit away just at the moment, but we have a subsidiary committee of our board, which is called the Development Committee, and that is stocked with people from sort of the commercial property development world, and they are constantly thinking about the best way that we can develop the stadium from a fan experience point of view, but also from a sort of business return on investment point of view. So we have lots of different schemes drawn up, some featuring a hotel, some featuring student housing as part of the standard buildings. So although I often talk about the context of our current financial position, we have got so much potential here. This kind of footprint of land that we've got has got so much potential for us to grow in the future. So, but I think initially the most important thing is to really figure out how to use what we've got from a fan experience and business point of view. And you've already said that, haven't you? So I could give back to you again. But I see
exactly that. And for now, it's about packing by the lane and getting this stadium full. Boy, when that went 1-0 up, what was happening? What's it going to buzz on the fabric on it? Eldest Harry is 9. It was his first ever game, and he's literally buzzing to want to come back. And if we can create that with a 9-year-old who's technically a Liverpool fan, what can we do with someone who's living down the road who's untapped?
Question about the stewards.
We've obviously undergone a major stewarding change. The company weren't for us, so I made that change within 12 hours of the late issues that we faced. It was fantastic on the pitch, but off the pitch, all wasn't to the standard that we should set as a club. And there are some issues I've got in that standard that we are addressing, mainly barriers. I think we're there now with our stewarding issue. We've had to sort of put some plasters over it the last few weeks, so we're right to point that out, but yeah, that will be addressed in the very near future.
Sorry, I need to put another pressure there. Next. That gentleman went up just before you. We'll come to you next.
Hi, welcome Danny. We're really looking forward to see what you can do for us. And just on a more practical level, I heard that when the thing didn't go well this summer, that the mobile disco lifted the spirit around here, and it was quite a big impulsion here. But then in opposition to that, we had a DJ out there in the cold, and he was really playing to about 10 people. I just wondering if we could make more of revenue gaining opportunities to have more formal use of a DJ, like a dance or a disco, karaoke, things like that. Is those the sort of ideas that you might have, or have you?
We've got scheduled the second working day back in January of sort of working parts on the Matchday experience. I want to provide the best Matchday experience in the Football League. We're a way off that yet, but we've got the journey towards it. So whether that be food or drink or ever stay with pre-game, I want people to be in this ground an hour earlier than they currently do, and to stay an hour after later. And that, there's many ways that we can do that. I think the DJ was exceptionally well received. I think we want to look at everything that doesn't. Won't be that we do the same thing every game. I want to make every match day unique as much as we can, and play around with themes. We're having theme in terms of food and drink, or we've got, I don't know, Caribbean, band randomly in January, just whatever it is that we just look at that just makes, hang our coattails on the marketing for that match day and get people in a different way.
Hi, I'm Steve. I would just like to say thank you to JJ, his coaches and players, particularly over the last 7 games where that winning factor's come back. It feels great. It feels great to be in the stadium. I was here for the Saturday game, Grimsby. The bar afterwards was rocking, and it's such a good feel factor, particularly after last season. So I'd like to thank you and your team. Also, I'd like to mention about the back four and the goalkeeper. I know we've been criticised in the past, but I think Nick's been brilliant lately. The back four, for being so young. I've got a Tranmere fan who said to me, our back two won everything in the air. Special thanks to, PK and Towler. But just coming on to Towler, is he, hopefully we can keep him. So I just think I'd like to put that out.
Yeah, obviously, we're really pleased with the whole back unit at the minute, and the goal is very much part of that. But specifically to your question, Ryan Taylor, I think, has been one of the success stories of the season. Huge credit is to go to Jamie Johnson for his part in bringing it to the club on a really, really good deal for us. And you talk about that here, who, you see what he does out there on the football pitch, but we see him day in, day out, and how he conducts himself, how he trains, how he's one of the nicest boys you've ever meet. He's so low maintenance, loves his football, wants to play every game, trains hard every day, and you see the fruits of the labour out there. So we're delighted with him, but more importantly, I think Bristol City are really delighted with the whole situation. So, they've sent him out for a reason, because they want him to have that experience of playing week in, week out, which he's getting. And credit to him, when you take these loans on, they always want to know whether they're going to play. Well, they'll play as long as they're doing the business and they're playing well. I don't think anyone can be guaranteed a place in the team, but obviously at the minute, the way he's performed in numerous different positions as well, but of late certainly in that sort of centre-back position, that he's doing the business and he wants his place in the team. So they're really happy with his development. This stage of his career, obviously he's not involved in their first team, but they recognise that he's the sort of talent that needs to be out playing football regularly, week in, week out, for his development. We've got a good working relationship with them as far as our dialogue. With all our loans, we speak to their parent clubs regularly. So Brian Season at Bristol City, Terry's got a really good relationship with. I spoke to a few times about Ryan's progress, and they're delighted with him. As far as we know, they've got no plans to do anything different with him. When they don't send players out on the wheel, where they go and when they go is really, really big decision. So, they choose their clubs carefully, and at the time frame they choose carefully. So, if he was to go back there, it wouldn't be the best thing for his development perhaps right now. This is what's been, communicated to us, what they see as the best thing for his development is to stay with us, playing regularly, and getting that footballing experience that he hasn't had loads of so far. So, as far as we know, they're really happy with him. We're obviously really happy with him. So at the moment, and I know the boy is loving it. When you see him for a loanee to act the way he does after a game, when he's running, I see him comes up to his supporters and gets it. It looks like a wobble, and it looks like he's massively barred there. And that's not always the case with loanees. So we struck gold with that one, and everyone at the meeting was really happy with how it's going. So hopefully we'll make that continue.
Anyone else?
Another one for JJ. So at the opposite end of the low east there is Huddlers, who's probably had least time on the pitch than most loans we've ever had. Now, is it really down to the way the other forwards have played, or your style has changed so that you find it difficult to incorporate him? I mean, none of us saw what games he played for his previous team in the conference playoffs. He looked a useful player, apart from his height, seemed to be good on the deck, but he's normally the best for about the last 5 or 8 minutes of a game. Do you see that changing? Because obviously the chances are he might be going back, so I'm presuming Huddersfield aren't too pleased with the games that he's had.
Yeah, what I would say is it was a really difficult start for Carl because it all came around really quickly for him. And obviously, solid wars. Huddersfield came in for him. A big offer, the Solihull that they accepted. So it's a bit of a whirlwind for the lad, getting his big move if you like, but then Huddersfield saw the best thing for his development was for him to go out on loan. Obviously, when we was in negotiations for Jack Buckley to go there, we spoke about Kyle and it came about really quickly. So he's sort of within a week of getting his big move if you like, which he probably thought at the time he was going to Huddersfield, and then a week later he's down in London, a long way from home. I think he found that difficult and really understandable. It took a while for him to sort of find his feet, and then injury, bad injury that he had to go back to Huddersfield. So it really stopped start for him at the beginning, and he found it difficult to get any momentum. He's then come back to us, and we hit a real patch of form. Obviously, Josh leading the line in that position, and being our player, our asset, and performing admirably, and obviously finding a way for the team in the minute. He's found the opportunities ability. So, but what I would say is he's dealt with that great. I think when he has played sort of in a couple of John's games, he was a little bit disappointed he couldn't play the FA Cup because maybe he was a bit more game time there, but Huddersfield wouldn't allow that. So he's found game time with it, but I think his performances in the couple of John's have got better and better. I think he's been training better and better, and he's becoming more and more part of the group of late. So, although you can't look at it as being a major success, obviously he's come on late in the game on Saturday, so he is in and around it being used. It will be obviously ultimately Huddersfield's call around what they do with it. They were setting out with an ideal of getting more game time, but like I just said with the right one, you can't guarantee anyone that they're going to play football. Obviously, some of that's down to circumstance, some of that is down to how you perform when you give the opportunity. It's worked out the way that it has, but we've got no issue with the lad. He's knuckled down hard, certainly in the last, when he's found himself lacking opportunity recently, he's been no issue whatsoever around the place. And I certainly think when he's come on, he's back to games as well. So we'll just monitor that situation, but ultimately it will be Huddersfield's call around what happens.
We'll do the final few questions before we wrap up, folks. Just for one of that.
Question for JJ. Looking towards the England game on Saturday, playing against France against Kylian Mbappe, for you, would you change your tactics and your formation to deal with a certain type of player like that? And also, consequently, do you think, not quite comparing directly, but do you think opposition teams do that against us with a certain view stance?
I certainly think opposition teams try. I certainly feel like they've told their right backs when they let them know that they're going to be in for a game and try and disrupt you, try and get tight to them as much as they can. But we try and encourage him, well, get the game plan away, to tweak his position and to mix it up so he doesn't become easy to mark, because obviously we know he's a mark man, but he seems to find a way anyway to that just because of the ability he's got. He's only playing, he is a real sort of unique talent, so he seems to find a way. He doesn't mind if the defenders want to get tight. He's up a physical battle. He's got opportunities to run at people. We really encourage him to just be really direct in that final third, but sometimes to the right wing, sometimes to roll him now. Just so it's difficult for a fullback to know what he's going to do, because obviously he's going to be earmarked as a big threat. So Gareth's got a real sort of problem on his hands, good or bad. who's obviously probably sat outside maybe in the world a little bit. But what I would say is I think we've probably got maybe the best possible right back to deal with his threats in Carl Walker. So I wouldn't want to see, for me, England, man for man, maybe apart from him, are ever been as good as us, in my opinion. And I think it's a real sort of 50-50 game. So I think in Carl Walker, we've probably got the best man around to maybe combat Mbappe's strengths. Now, Mbappe's unbelievable, so he can still get better. But I think Carl Walker, served up for that challenge. And I think we've got enough elsewhere as well to cause him all sorts of issues. And not necessarily have to just worry about one man. We'll see. He's got to race back and swing it to find
Bob's next.
Let's take it back to the stadium. We're talking earlier about developing the stadium, and we can't be too far off having to think about expanding the average crowd again. Is it possible to extend bit by bit, or do we have to do everything at once? Thinking about the access for building materials into the stadium.
Reliably informed. Interestingly, the consultant we work with when we build the stadium loves the place so much he's here at least twice a week. Kind of wondering if I can send you. But I have asked the question. It might have a really optimistic days. Okay, we want to go 12,000. What do we do? And he has got various ideas of what we can do. So yeah, I mean if you think about the fact that 3 of the stands are temporary structures, there are things that we could do that would give us an incremental lift in capacity. You probably wouldn't do it in one game, but if you decided we could start another 3 season tickets, then there's probably other things you could do.
Yeah, I was thinking more of putting a new permanent stand in and another permanent stand, and rather than just developing it for one game and pulling it back.
Yeah, no, we could. Yeah, we can. When we create the demand and we find the right business model, then we can build another permanent stand. Yes, and we have a planning permission to do that. So, as I say, thanks to Eric. Give a round of applause for doing that.
Just saying, Portugal seems to be doing all right. I think they'll be safely through. On that note, I think we're going to finish it there.
One more question.
Oh, one more question. Ooh. Let's finish with Florence.
Hello, Johnny. You alright? Rob here from the 9 Years team. Question for you. Well, 2 questions actually, maybe 3. Number 1 is, will we be recording Zach Robinson because he's scoring at Dundee? Number 2 is, where do you see Aya Vasal's best position, because he's played on the wing and played for the middle, and his goal scoring's probably come best from the wing. And number 3 is, how are you going to fit NYC into starting 11? Now that we only play 1 striker. So yeah, those are my 3 questions.
Okay, so Zach, obviously, again, we spoke about those, those of the weeks ago. We sent Zach out for that specific reason as well, because we feel like at the minute that's his the best thing for his development. And he's out at a good club, he's playing pretty regularly, scoring pretty regularly. So you can call him back, and then he scored a few goals. You call him back, and then Josh is playing, and you stuck his development, and he finds his game time limited. So haven't at the minute got any plans to call him back, but obviously we will look at how January develops, and we know that we're happy with where he's at and what he's doing, and we think it's really good for his development. So we'll just monitor that really closely to see where we go with it as far as January. Are you best position?
Yeah.
I think he's been a challenge as a manager to find where we play and how we get the best out of him, how we set up. Just set up for one player, but I think we've got a way of playing at the minute that he's getting the best out of him. certainly for now, I think that wing position is where he's flourishing. I think it's probably where he enjoys playing the most. What was the first? First of all, delighted to have him back in the goal. Obviously, he was really excited at the start of the season, and he had a really good partnership with Josh at that stage. But obviously, we changed a little bit the way that we were playing. But if you recall the Northampton game, he played off the right. That was the game he got injured actually, and we actually started that game really well. We was on the front foot. The season, then for 3 goals. Again, it's sort of one of the games that you put that one, I think, but I don't know how that one quite happened. So one of those, I think, he was really on the front foot. Cousy was looking strong on that right side, so I think he's got the ability to maybe play in that position. He will play off of the line, in the sort of that 10 position, and if you need him to play down the middle of the line, he's got the ability and the legs to be able to run those channels, similar to what Josh does. So there's going to be loads of opportunity here. In football, you find yourself, you get setbacks, you get injuries, you find yourself out of the team, you've got to work your way back into the team. That's the way it goes. He's been out a long time, he's had a bad injury there, and it's taken probably longer than we thought it would do. So he's going to have to build himself back up, he's going to have to prove in training that he needs to be a part of it, he'll get opportunities here and there, maybe from the bench to start with, and then it's on him, how he trains, how he performs when he comes on, can he force his way into the regular, and that's the same for any player. So we're delighted to have him back. He will definitely be an asset for us going forward, but obviously you have to be adaptable. We'll just see how it pans out.
Cool, thank you.
Good way to end. Thank you very much to everyone who's come out. First of all, I want to say thank you to the gaffer for giving us the time and coming out to see everyone. For providing an insight into and thanks to Skipper for hanging along as well. Yeah, and I want to say thank you to my colleague Chris Lavitt. And to Spike and Rob for recording the event. And of course, last thank you to you guys as fans. Without you guys, we can't put on these events, and you guys make it what it is. So thank you very much for coming out. All I've got left to say is roll up in the way, roll on England v France.